Alright you guys, welcome back to another awesome video on my channel, Archaeology Rocks with Matt. Oh wait, I think I'm on the wrong channel. You guys don't want to see a video on ancient Egypt, do you? I guess not. Alright, yeah, I forgot I'm logged into my other channel here, so let me just change this because this isn't gonna work. There we go. This is what I wanted to do. Today we're going to talk about the wonderful, magnificent, and one of the world's greatest escape artists of all time, Harry Houdini. Of course, we're going to talk about Harry Houdini because this is the amazing historical figures with Matt. You know, that channel. What do you mean it's the wrong channel? Again? Let me guess, you want another video? Yes, you want another video for the mental health channel? Really? I mean, we already have Mr. Houdini here. I mean, we could easily talk about him. Alright, fine. Nobody wants to hang out with Mr. Houdini or the ancient Egyptians, so I guess you leave me no choice but to give you another video on the mental health channel. So, what the hell am I going to talk about though? Well, I do have one thing. What if we were to talk about the invalidation that comes with the stigma against mental illness? Are you interested yet? Because, I mean, I know it's not as interesting as the Egyptians or Harry Houdini, but I think for this channel it'll have to do. Cheesy intros aside, this is going to be an interesting topic. I don't really think it's going to be very controversial, though, because I really honestly think that just about every person who is ever going to experience a mental disorder, if they are not already, is going to go through a lot of these issues. Now, this video is not going to be very pop-up-y and text and statistics everywhere. You know, I'm not even going to pull out a DSM for this one. I know, shocking. And as much as I love the research-based videos and getting all the facts and throwing them up beside my glamorous self, I figure we'll do something a little bit different today and do just more of a opinion-based thing or a personal experience type video instead of a straight statistic video. I feel like I could put a pun there. The gay guy wants to make a straight joke. Yeah, let's just pretend I didn't just do any of that. All right. So, where do we start with this topic, right? The reality is the answer to this question of why people don't understand mental illness, right? We already basically covered this in one of the previous videos on the stigma and mental health. So, kind of going to repeat myself a little bit with this. Gotcha. That was terrible. All right. But I am going to probably rehash some things from that video because they are obviously relevant here. And I'm also going to dive a little bit into my personal experience with people who don't understand my mental illness, namely in the forms of my parents. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So, like I mentioned in the stigma video, the two biggest causes, right, when we look at causation of why people have this stigma or feed into this stigma on mental disorders, number one is going to be a lack of awareness and education. And then we're also going to have the misportrayal of different mental health related topics in media, TV, movies, etc. Those are really the two big things that we see that seem to be really the biggest causes of the stigma and what leads into it. And I know in that video I used the example for the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. We discussed that whole ECT scene. That's really hard to say. ECT scene. But we discussed that a little bit. I know I had a picture of it up on the screen even. And really talked a lot about how, although what it was depicting was accurate for the time that it was portraying, which is the early to mid 1950s in this mental institution, you know, we went on to discuss kind of how it is very much a different procedure from what is done today. The procedure is still done today, unlike the lobotomy. It has been totally axed from treatment plans worldwide. ECT, the electroconvulsive therapy, is still done today for a variety of mental disorders, including bipolar disorder, treatment-resistant depression, and even some studies that show it to be fairly effective at reducing chronic suicidality in patients as well. Another interesting thing that also is used, I found out recently, a little off topic, but another thing I found out recently that's used to treat chronic suicidality, particularly in either really depressed patients or bipolar patients, is actually lithium. So lithium is a little bit already of a different medication because it's, well, first of all, it's an element off the periodic table. But it's, in terms of its classification of drug, it's not actually labeled as an antidepressant. It's not labeled as an antipsychotic, antizylitic, or a anticonvulsant, or the mood stabilizer. It's actually one of only a few drugs in the class called an anti-manic. So the reason it really is prescribed only to bipolar 1 patients is because it is supposed to prevent the full-blown mania that we see in bipolar 1, whereas someone like me with bipolar 2 that really never has full manic episodes, well, never will. I take that back. People with bipolar 2, like me, who have not yet had a full-blown manic episode or any episode of psychosis, that's really not a medication that's used for treating bipolar 2 because it doesn't reach that full-blown mania. Now, like we discussed in the last video on bipolar disorder in great detail, we discussed that the hypomania doesn't reach the levels of the full-blown mania. However, we also discussed that you can be diagnosed with bipolar 1 should you ever actually have a full-blown manic episode or a psychotic episode. Automatically changes your diagnosis. It bumps you up to the bipolar 1 diagnosis, and from there, that is it. There's no going back down to bipolar 2, no matter what. So just a little interesting side note I found, like I said, with the ECT and apparently lithium both being used to treat chronic suicidality. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Hence why I mentioned it there. Okay, but back on topic. So we've established that the stigma really comes from this lack of awareness and this lack of understanding and education, and it comes from this misrepresentation of mental disorders and their treatments and other things in media, movies and TV and other areas. So this is obviously very unfortunate, right? Like, there's no denying that, there's no getting around that idea. It's very unfortunate that just about every person ever diagnosed with any mental disorder is, at least at some point in life, going to come across someone who has many false beliefs or opinions on mental disorders, or even doesn't believe in mental disorders for religious or cultural reasons, right? There are many reasons, I guess, that could happen. But either way, this all really leads to a very negative effect on the person with the disorder. I would like to say that at least a majority of people, it's more so because of just lack of general awareness and education on a specific disorder. Unfortunately, though, the general reason for the misconception or other form of evaluation, I can't talk today. So, like I said, regardless of the reason for why that might persist, it really still leads to the same problem, and that is the invalidation factor. Now, there's basically a scenario for every person in life, for every reason in life, to feel invalidated by something. But it usually has something to do with a perception of what somebody else thinks or feels about you or a situation you're in. So it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around mental disorders or something, but it can even just be a comment of, maybe you're wearing a new hat and somebody comes up and says, that hat makes you look like an idiot. You look like, an Oompa Loompa with that that green hat on, or that spray tan. Makes you look like an Oompa Loompa, something like that. Well, maybe you think you look really good with this new hat on, or whatever it may be, this spray tan, you feel good about it. So now you feel invalidated. You feel like your opinion doesn't really matter, because now all you can do is think about, oh, but Joe down here said that I look ugly with it. It looks stupid on me. So it must look stupid on me. I gotta take this thing off right away before more people say something. It's a silly example, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about mental disorders. That's just where we're really focusing on seeing it for the purpose of this video. So I guess I'll just launch into my story now. Like I said, there is no real good reason for someone to feel invalidated. And, if somebody has invalidated you as a person with mental disorder, I'm truly sorry about that, because that's something that nobody should really have to feel. It's bad enough when you have to deal with all the symptoms of a mental disorder on your own. Even if you have a support network, even if you have therapists and medication and good friends and all of that, it still doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, you still have to go through all of this alone. And that's bad enough, right? The symptoms, the medication side effects, the disappointment in therapy even, all of it's very negative, and all of it really already makes something that's already complicated even more complicated and even more tiresome. And like I said, there are a lot of reasons for why people might have certain perceptions on mental disorders, on treatment, anything like that. A general lack of knowledge and awareness and education is the biggest key, right? That's the biggest factor. But that doesn't really give them the right to say something or to do something that rises to the level of invalidating you, whether it's something that you're saying or something that you have gone through that you are telling someone about. First of all, for many things with mental disorders, it's very hard to open up to someone in the first place, right? It's a very big step. And the idea that somebody can say something so hurtful and demeaning and devaluing that they are invalidating your entire experience, or invalidating everything you're saying about how you feel, or what's going on with you, or something that's happened to you. It's one of the worst feelings on the planet. It's almost as bad as the feelings from the actual disorders themselves, right? Because then you feel more depressed, you feel more anxious, you don't feel like ever talking to anyone ever again, because now you probably have an idea that this is what everyone is going to say. This is how everyone's going to react or treat you or say to you and make you feel. So now you really don't want to ever talk to anyone ever again. And that obviously is an even bigger issue now of its own. So while it can be understanding that many people, majority of people, are not going to have much working knowledge about mental disorders, about symptoms, about therapies and medications, most people are not doing so much research on this that they can make full-blown videos like I do, and that many other mental health professionals do. And that's not entirely unreasonable, right? I don't expect someone to take so much time to look into something that they're not really aware of, if there's no real personal reason for them to. But it's really when people with no knowledge about the subject really try to sound like they have a lot of knowledge. And where this comes into my story is the following. Basically, it is basically the reaction of my parents, in particular my stepdad, when they discovered my self-harm scars. So obviously there's no anticlimactic way to go into a story about that. So because it's a big deal and very stressful. So basically what happened is I had probably been doing it at the point of that time. Was around, I don't know, maybe July or August of 2018. So it was like before and even a little after I got out of the mental clinic for my suicide attempt, which was June of 2018. So it was up before that. I was self-harming really bad, like almost probably a full year before that. Really bad. And I have many scars on my arm to you can still see if you look in light, especially sunlight. They have mostly healed. They are pretty well faded, but if you're really looking at my arm through all the hair, you can still see many of them. And up on my arm up here is the more recent ones from, not recent like recent of filming this, but recent of where I started to move further up on my arm instead of going down my arm, because I didn't want to get busted, wearing short sleeves around the house or something stupid. So I said I'll do it above my sleeve, so no one would really be able to see. And I guess that worked for a long time, right? I kind of thought nothing of it. So this was probably about like 2 months after I stopped cutting, and we were all going to go in the pool out back. I took off my shirt, got in the pool, and my stepdad was, I don't know, about a foot away from me, And what's that on your arm? Oops. Yeah. In a matter of seconds, I managed to single-handedly forget probably my biggest thing I could ever hide from them. In like the stupidest way imaginable. Going in a damn pool with my shirt off. After so many months, over a year of hiding all of it. And I blew my cover just like that, like you feel so stupid. And this goes back to the idea, I know we discussed this in the actual self-harm video I did a while ago, but it really goes to this idea that this is done for attention, okay? Because this is a really, really good example of why that cannot possibly be the case. I hid this for over a year. Only like 3 of my closest friends knew what was going on. And honestly, there were times that they actually held my razor blades for me. I gave them razor blades, I gave them knives, I gave them whatever the hell I had. But I guess I might have forgotten one once or twice and just kind of held on to that one. But I did give them the bulk supply of double-edged razor blades I use in my straight razor, safety razor. So regardless, I was doing this for a long time without being caught. And that again just goes to show, if it was done for attention, people would have known about it. They would have known about it. It wouldn't have been something I was doing in secret and hiding. And they still don't know that I started in 8th grade. That it was a thing off and on for a long period of time. Never something I'm going to get in a discussion with them about, but it's true. I hid it for years back then, and somehow forgot about it. Now, they weren't super new or anything, but they were new enough to know that they were fairly recent. They weren't totally faded, years ago scars. They were faded cuts. Like I said, probably like a month or 2 old at that point. So I was like, what's that on your arm, right? And I'm mortified, it's like, what do I say? Do I say the cat scratched me? He doesn't have front claws, and, it's not entirely unlikely, but like 4, horizontal lines like that, yeah, that's kind of hard to fake. That's not really a cat scratch look. So that wasn't going to work. So I was honest. I said I was going through a thing a while ago, and this is what happened. This is what I did. Do you know what he said to that? This is where it gets really, really fucked up, right? His reply was, why the fuck are you doing that? You're too old to do that. You're not in middle school anymore. Grow up. You're too old to be doing that to yourself. Yeah. That was validating. Yeah, that was not good. That was not a good thing to say. Don't ever fucking say that to somebody who you find out is self-harming. I mean, just wow. Like, even thinking about it now and saying that, like, that's actually what he said to me. I'm just like sitting in this pool and I'm just like, what? And it's like we discussed in the self-harm video, you can start self-harming, you can stop self-harming, and you can relapse self-harm at any age. Your idea that I was no longer an emo middle school kid was very reassuring, because considering that's when I started, that didn't really help your conversation either. But like I said, they don't know any of that, and I wasn't about to start saying anything about it. So at that point, my mom had come out, and I guess he's like, show your arm, this and that. He's like, literally grabs my freaking arm, like showing her, He's like, yeah, he did this to himself, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's too old for this shit. Tell him. And even she kind of looked a little surprised at him, I guess. I mean, there was just something about, like, his idea about it being too old for, not in middle school anymore to do this thing. He's like, she said something to the effect of, like, oh, stop saying that. Like, it's, adults can do it too, I guess, or something to that effect. I really don't remember exactly what she said, but I remember exactly what he said. Literally, that verbatim, just that same thing. But she basically kind of told him, like, stop saying that part because, like, adults can do it too or something. And I was like, yes, thank you. At least somebody has a marginal bit of more clue than this dimwit. But I mean, that was like the most invalidating thing I think I've ever been told regarding mental illness or self harm or anything. And I was so fucking mad when I heard that shit. Like, I was just like, I think I started screaming at him, like, you have no fucking idea how bad things have been for me. You know, like at that point. I mean, unbelievable, right? But there are many people in the world who are hearing similar things just like that every day, being told that they can't possibly be depressed because they're on the cheerleading team and they're popular and they go to school and, you know, I mean, so much bullshit, right? There's so many misbeliefs that need to be challenged. They need to be crushed. They need to be annihilated, wiped off the damn board of things that people will say to someone with a mental disorder or self-harming or anything. I mean, it's just like telling a depressed person, there's no reason to be depressed. You have a good life. There's no reason to be anxious, like, just so much stupid shit, It's terrible. So that's a look on, kind of the invalidation factor when people don't understand mental illness. Got a little heated in there. I mean, we're better about it now. My stepdad, I mean, whatever. We've never talked about it after that. I stopped doing it, I guess. So I mean, I've been clean for over a year now. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't still a struggle. Sometimes it wasn't something that like never crossed my mind again or never became a thought. There were many times that I come close to relapsing. But I've taken steps to ensure that wouldn't happen. It hasn't happened. So things are good on that regard. I don't want anyone to worry. But that's basically my experience and a little bit of a look conceptualizing the invalidation factor. If you enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you have any future ideas for other videos, topics you'd like to see covered, maybe even something historical, maybe, that would be cool. Leave it in the comments down below. And you can also check out the Instagram page and fill out the little question poll thingy I put on there for the same thing. Other than that, subscribe to the channel if you're new so you don't miss any of my future videos, just like this one. Until the next video, I'll see you next time. Adios.